lesson 1. Episode 2, lesson 1. You get it. Now, in this lesson, we're going to be covering the most important part of this entire course, and that is safety. Safety needs to be your #1 priority at all times. Whether you're the one handling the firearm or you're around somebody else who's handling a firearm. Remember, you're always a safety officer. If you see someone violating any of these safety rules, call them out on it. Or even if you don't feel comfortable, let them know. So what are our safety rules? Well, let me tell you. Rule number 1! Always keep your gun pointed in a safe direction. I know, it's simple enough that even I feel like I shouldn't have to tell you that. But believe it or not, it's the one that I see violated most frequently in my classes. What is a safe direction? Well, it's any direction in which your firearm won't cause any unintended damage to a person or property. And I get it. You're out there shooting for the first time, you take that shot, bang, and then you kind of get distracted looking at that pistol. Oh, this is so cool. All right, it feels so great. And then all of a sudden you're pointing at someone else who's on the shooting line, and that's a no-no. If you find that you can't point your gun in a safe direction around you, point it straight down at the ground, but be mindful of where your feet are. And guys, I can't stress how important this rule really is. Even if you violate every other safety rule, as long as you're following the first one, everyone should be okay. But don't violate the other rules. Rule number 2! Always keep your finger off of the trigger until you're ready to shoot. This is another common mistake I see first-time shooters make. And again, I get it. It's your first time holding a gun, and, well, what do you do with a gun? You pull the trigger, so where does your finger go? On the trigger. Guess what? No. The best practice to get into is to put your finger above the trigger along the frame of the firearm. We'll go over that in more detail in another lesson. But think about it. Even though firearms have mechanical safeties, well, any kind of mechanism can fail. So the first line of safety is right here. If your finger's nowhere near the trigger, chances are you're not going to accidentally discharge your firearm. So play it safe, keep your finger out of the way until you're ready to take that shot. Rule number 3! Always be sure of your target and what's beyond it and in front of it. So this one kind of ties into the first rule, but what a lot of people forget is that these pieces of lead are flying at 1,500 feet per second. And at that velocity, they'll go through a lot of different materials. Paper, wood, drywall, people, sheet metal, and a whole lot of other stuff too. So keep that in mind when you're shooting at a target downrange. Is there a sufficient backstop? Or if you find yourself in a defensive situation and you have the time, take notice of what's beyond that threat, because your bullets can and probably will go through. And of course, we want to be aware of what's in front of our target. If at any point something does get in front of your target, don't shoot. If you can't see your target, don't shoot. Rule number 4! Always keep your firearm unloaded unless you're using it for defensive purposes. Now, obviously, you don't want to be this guy. Whoa, hey! Oh. Hang on. Just 1 second. No, you always want to have your firearm loaded and ready to go when you're carrying it for defense, whether it's in your car, in your home, or on your person. That choice is yours and yours alone to make. But if that's what it's for, then keep it ready to go. Any other time, whether you're going to the range or you just have your guns in storage for a set period of time, keep them unloaded and keep the ammo away from those guns. This helps prevent unauthorized people from accessing your firearms and using them either against you or themselves intentionally or unintentionally. Now, I do want to point out that every single firearms accident that has ever happened in the history of firearms has happened because of a violation of one of those rules. And there are 2 reasons for a violation. Number 1 is ignorance, and ignorance is somewhat forgivable. A child doesn't know what to do with a firearm, how to handle it safely, or even the consequences of using a firearm. But you now know the rules, so you can't claim ignorance. The other side of ignorance is negligence. And negligence is simply knowing the rules and still failing to follow them. Now, anytime you're going out to the range to do a little bit of recreational shooting or training, make sure you bring with you 2 things. And for that, I'm gonna need some props. Wow! Thanks, Movie Magic. Now, the first thing I have here are safety glasses. They're just your regular, run-of-the-mill, shatterproof safety glasses that you can pick up just about anywhere. But they'll protect your eyes from all kinds of things, like your firearm blowing up in your face, or even excess oil being blasted back in your direction. Not as rare as you think. Now, the second thing I have here is hearing protection. There are all kinds of hearing protection that you can find on the market, from little foam plugs that you into your ears, and those come in all kinds of different colors and foam densities and plastics and all that. And the second type is over-the-ear hearing protection. These happen to be electronic hearing protection, which amplifies the sound while cutting out the loud noises like a gunshot. I'll go over these in more detail in a later video on this channel. Now, the last thing I want to cover is really your first line of defense when it comes to safely and responsibly operating a firearm. And that is safety checking the gun. So what do I mean by safety check? I'm talking about checking to see if the firearm is loaded every time you pick it up, even if you just put it down 2 seconds before. Safety check it. Hey, can I get another prop over here? Thanks. Now, to safety check a revolver, all we have to do is simply open up the cylinder and manually inspect each chamber to ensure that there are no cartridges loaded. We can see that this one is empty. It's safe to handle. However, we should always follow the rules of firearm safety, even with an unloaded firearm. Hey, how about a semi-automatic? Thanks. To safety check a semi-automatic, the first thing we want to do is remove the magazine. And we do this because we don't want to accidentally load the gun when we perform the next step, which is pull the slide back and visually check to ensure that the chamber is not loaded. We know this gun is now clear and safe to handle. However, we're still going to follow the 4 rules of gun safety now, aren't we? Okay, so I think that covers the basics of safety. Remember, you're always the range safety officer, so if you feel uncomfortable or you see someone doing anything dumb, not checking to see if their firearm is loaded, violating any one of those 4 safety rules, or even not wearing ear and eye protection, which could damage their hearing or even blind them in severe cases, make sure you call them out on it. It's for your safety, and it's for their safety. I know, I'm kind of silly and eccentric in my videos, but safety is no laughing matter. Take it seriously all the time. I do, everyone in my class does, and so should you. And we'll see you in the next lesson.